Good morning to you, Grenada, Carriacou, PD Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. Welcome to GBN Television, Classic Radio. Welcome to The Point for today, the 17th day of the month of November. I'm Joseph Cadore, and I'm saying thanks for being part of the broadcast. And I want to say good morning and welcome to my guest, Senator Norland, Minister of Infrastructure, Development, Public Utilities, Transport, and Implementation in the Government of Grenada. Good morning to you, sir, and welcome to the program.
Pleasant morning, Cardo. It's a pleasure to be here. I think it is fitting for we to say season greetings.
I think those sentiments are in order. I think it's probably the first time
we start feeling the breeze in some areas.
Yes, indeed, we can feel the breeze in some areas, and when we look and we see a number of infrastructural projects on the ground. The only pity is that we won't be getting no bonus or back pay. But at least the season.
You just never know.
You just never know.
Coming to Christmas, you have to be hopeful.
Let's be hopeful. It's the spirit of the season of love. I was saying to somebody the other day, Minister, that I'm happy where we are. Because just a few months ago, two weeks ago, a couple of months ago, September, I mean, really we were like, whoa, it's going to be a dismal end of year for us. But you would agree that we've literally turned the corner, and we found a new path, and hopefully we can sustain that path and keep within that direction.
Yeah, it's been a very difficult period for everybody, especially our young people, the students, not being able to interact with their fellow colleagues, having to stay at home, to be on Zoom. Persons not being able to go and socialize, no sporting activities. It has been very difficult. It's something that we all are dealing with. Even myself, missing a little social activity. So it has been difficult. It has been difficult, a difficult period for the country. But we are moving forward, and hopefully, by the grace of God, we can return to that area of normalcy where we were before. Pre-COVID, but it has been a rough time for everybody.
It has been no doubt. But while COVID and no COVID, there is the business of governance of the country, and our lives continue to unfold. Let's start this morning because there's a number of things that we can possibly talk about. But certainly coming from postcard briefing yesterday, I think one of the highlights of yesterday's briefing was the commencement, the green light there is, if you may put it that way, for the commencement of work on the land slippage in the Norland area, which forms part of a greater initiative. But the focus would be on remedial work, recovery work in that area. Bring us up to speed, Ministers, exactly what's happening in that arena.
Yeah, thank you much for that. And I think it is. I believe it's more appropriate for me to start off by focusing on the community that has been affected, and they have been impacted significantly. Homes have been lost, livelihoods have been lost, in the Cherry Hill, Norland area. It has been tough for that community for the past couple of years. And what would have happened is that when we got the grant funding for the Western Corridor, we didn't have any slippage. So this is something that came after the project was conceptualized, and that is the challenge that we had. So what that did, that actually delayed the implementation of the entire Western Main Road Corridor, because you now have to deal with this major slippage, do a number of geotechnical work, a number of surveys, even also working with the communities to deal with those losses, those challenges. So I think we must first start with the community and the impact that they have endured over this period and with the slippage. However, we are very happy that we are moving forward to recover the area and to restore back the roadway.
But before you get into, Minister, the specifics of the project, I mean, you did talk about the impact of the community and the lives. What can you tell us in terms of the number of families that were immediately and directly affected by the slippage?
Well, the persons who are heavily impacted are the ones who lost their homes and businesses which actually were washed down the slope. So those were lost. I think it's about 5 to 6 persons that were affected in that area. But for persons who lost their property, you have persons who live in close proximity. They may never lost their home, but they, I believe, is impacted as much as persons who would have lost their homes, because you're basically cut off, from the rest of the country in a sense. And so even if you had a business there, then no activities is actually coming as well. So it has been a tough time for everybody in that regard. And so that is a component that we are looking at in the project to see how, when we build back the project, how we can integrate that. So I'll speak more of that going forward when I speak of the project in details.
Right. So what can you tell us about the project as it is now? In terms of the
Our intention, just to indicate, the Western Corridor project is a 26-kilometer project, which stretches from the stadium, the Kirani James Athletic Stadium, to St. Mark's Secondary School. So that is the entire course of the project. However, with the incident of Molinier, we now find ourselves having to focus on that area first. And so we have been working hard with the consultant to finalize all these preparatory work in terms of the surveying. They have to survey all the areas. They have to look at the slopes that present a risk of slides. They are going to be remedial work to address those. So they have to identify all that. Areas where the roads are narrow, they have to widen those as well. So all that will be addressed as part of the project. On Molinier, we are going to restore the roadway back to its original area with just some slight movement uphill. Mm-hmm. So that is what is going to happen. It's not going to be rerouted in any major way or so. So the community was very happy to hear that from the consultants. We have had a number of consultations between the 9th and the 11th of this month from St. John's, St. Mark's, and St. George's community. So just bringing them up to speed on where we are. And it's important that the stakeholders know what is going to happen, know what the designs are going to look like, how they'll be impacted, where the inconvenience would be, and how the project would roll out. So we are going to look at Molinier first. We are working towards having tender documents available for tendering in December. That's next month. Right. So we are right there. We just received the go-ahead from the consultants for us to do the what we call pre-qualification of appropriate bidders. So instead of just, what we can do is set all the criteria now and have those persons ready to tender before. Then you're having a longer process. Then you say, oh, this person they're not qualified, and then you have to drop them out. So we're doing all this pre-qualification before. That's to shorten the process, to expedite, to make it more efficient. So that is what we are focusing on now. So once we can get those tenders out in December, we envisage work to commence in March of 2022 on Molinier. So that is the first important deadline target that we are striking for. So we are very excited about that. Everybody's excited about that. And what that will do for us in terms of the entire project, once we can restore that slippage, mm-hmm. which will take 4 to 6 months to complete. Okay. Then that will allow us now to start accessing back the Western Main Road as it was prior to the slippage. So that is what we are focusing on.
Before you move on to your ministry, were you able to assess there is the impact on the direct community, but have you been able to assess the overall impact, economic impact? Because that road, that's the main corridor that services the western side. And it means that there's been a lot of rerouting, inconveniences, and sort of. Were you ever able to, in any way, determine the economic losses? The economic loss?
The Ministry of Finance have been entrusted with that responsibility to look at the impact of that. So we haven't had any feedback on that from them as yet, but they are the ones who would normally do those investigative analysis and those impact, and they will share with us, or we would form part of the assessment. So they would engage as part of the assessment, speak with engineers and other key persons, but they're the ones who normally drive that process. So once we have that information, we could bring those information to the public as to what the impact is in terms of numbers. But we know that it is significant. It's very challenging for the commuters going through Mount Morris area, and we'll speak about some response work that we are working on too as well as regards to that current situation. So for Molyneux area, we are very hopeful to have it commence work in March of 2022. We are pushing really hard to achieve those deadlines because we have to be able to expend that grant money before the end of 2023. Now, for the rest of the Western Corridor, that work will be divided up in about 5 packages or more. So at any one point in time, we will have more than 5 contractors on site working on the entire 26 kilometers of road. And that is how we plan to expedite it and have it commence in April of 2022. That is the road work itself and drains, the slopes in April of 2022 to finish in December of 2023. So those are the major targets that we are aiming at to have this project completed to restore that Western Corridor area that we are looking at.
You said five packages. There is starting with the Cherry Hill Molyneux land slippage. The rest of the packages, they work along that corridor would include what?
So that will include overlaying the entire road network from the stadium to St. Mark's Secondary School, widening the road, doing all the drains, walls, bridges, whatever that needs to be repaired throughout that entire 26 kilometers of road, slope stabilization, all that will be taking place. It's going to be a major work, significant employment for persons with those projects. That is going to have significant engagement for service providers. Everybody is going to be engaged in some way or the other for that major project that we're looking at on the Western Corridor.
So it starts. So you're looking to start.
That is separate and apart from Molyneux.
Right, separate and apart from Molyneux. That project in its entirety, along the 26 kilometers course, would take approximately how long? And is it being done simultaneously?
Yes. So we are looking from April of next year to December of 2023. That is what we're looking at. Yeah. So that is the timeline that we are looking at. So we are pushing to achieve that. It's a tight timeline. Our funders and the implementing agency working with us as Caribbean Development Bank. We have been working. It's a very tight schedule. Hence the reason why we are taking this efficient approach to have more than one contractor. They are going to be work late. They might be work 24 hours in some cases, or work in the night for us to achieve that. So all that is going to be taking place. Significant work. I know that there are going to be concerns with some inconvenience as we do those work.
Oh, definitely.
So what we would have done, we have just started work on the Monkuma Road. That is a road from Grenville Vale into Bolio.
Right. Okay.
So work on that road will take about 7 months thereabout, and once we have that area completed, then traffic can be diverted through that area as well for the larger trucks. So to ease that pressure at that bottleneck up at Mount Morris going forward. So that is an additional roadway that we are now establishing to treat with that going forward. And we believe that it will remain as a major road network thereafter, providing another alternative from St. George's to get up to the north. For persons who want to commute just to avoid traffic. And it will be more wide enough, and I believe it will be better for the larger trucks to traverse in bringing goods, products, and stuff to the north and vice versa, from the north to the south.
There's also an access route through that takes you through the Annandale area, Willis area, that connects you back.
Yeah, so
what consideration is given to that?
Right. So the Willis Constantine area, one of the challenges that we have in that area is there's a lot of corners, a lot of tight corners. So that area is under the Feeder Roads project, the Roads and Bridges Feeder Roads project.
Right.
And come Monday, the contractor is going to be starting to mobilize in that area. So road work is going to be, those areas, that road work is going to be widened as well. So it's going to be much better for persons commuting through the Willis Constantine area. So work is commencing from Monday, please Lord, on that area as well.
I mean,
so we are working on both fronts to have the road network more safer and better condition for commuters on a daily basis.
And for persons, Minister, we just want to give them an appreciation for where that Mount Kuma road is, because most people, they're probably thinking, I'm seeing Mount Kuma, where is Mount Kuma? So for folks that
that road is just higher up the entrance on the Bolio side. It's just higher up Snug Corner.
Right.
It's a little way up after past Snug Corner going up the hill, and it terminates in Grenville Vale.
Right.
Yes. There is a bridge that has to be constructed as well on the Grenville side. I can't remember the length of the bridge now, but there's a bridge to be constructed there. However, the contractor would have done some temporary crossing over the river, so the road is somewhat motorable right now. Once it's safe and the contractors can allow, they'll be able to persons be able to drive through that area right now as we speak. I also want to speak to the residents in the Mount Kuma area who will be affected in some way as we implement this road network. I know that communities always welcome road development works, but I know that sometimes a challenge with inconvenience. I do know that the contractor and the consultant did meet with residents, and we want to ask them to continue to cooperate with us, and we empathize with whatever inconvenience or setback that may occur from the implementation, and we'll work with them to ensure that we resolve everything as quickly as possible. We need their support, and they are the gatekeepers of those projects, and that will be their own project. It is yours, it is in your community, and we want them to work with us to implement it successfully.
Funding, Senator, the land, because you said the land slippage forms part of the 26-kilometer of road project that was approved prior to.
Yes.
This additional work for the slippage, the restorative work in Norland, funding for that comes from where? Are you moving funds from one place to the next, or is that a tab that government has to pick up directly?
That's a tab that government has to pick up. We have been working with CDB through one of the loan facility, funding loan facility, soft loan facility, that will help us to address that. Either a mixture of grant and loan from CDB to address that financing gap.
And what's the cost of?
We have not finalized that as yet. We are still waiting on the final numbers from the consultant. We should have those between now and December. And those numbers can shift. As you know, we are in a situation where inflation in terms of the prices and shipping, some of it we don't really have any control over.
Right.
The government will have to do whatever we can locally to address and to ease those measures, whatever measures we can implement to ease the burden on our citizens. That is our responsibility, and we're going to work with that.
But
we'll have those numbers. But ongoing.
I'm asking on the backdrop that you've already started the initial bidding process by contractors. So I'm assuming as part of that bidding.
Yes, well, as I indicated, with the tender will go out in December. So those final numbers will be ready for the tendering process. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And the alternative routes that the work on that Mount Kuma road, funding for that was already pre-approved, or is that with all of that?
That was already pre-approved. So work is already started on that. Yes.
Okay. So there is that land slippage area starting in March around. and we're looking for quite a lengthy period of time for that to go on. And the bidding process, and I'm assuming the feasibility studies and everything, that has already been completed, done, approved, and available to the public.
Well, we have feasibility for Molyneux proper, and then we have feasibility study that will cover the entire area. So all that the necessary work has been done. We have one of the most experienced geologists who is who was a senior lecturer at the UE, who came on island and do the necessary work. And he said to me that he said, Minister, look, the slippage that you have there that's just a standard slippage. We have seen worse than that, and so that was very comforting for us to hear. Yes, it was very comforting for us to hear in terms of how the response in terms of restoring it. And I was just saying one of the things that they are looking at is to do a couple of lookouts on the area, that slippage area, when they restoring the roadway as a kind of a community tourism initiative. Okay. Also, they're looking at doing a trail. Once the work is complete and it's safe for persons, they're doing a kind of nature trail to walk through, to go down to the water's edge, as part of a community tourism to help restore the community back, bring it back, in a nice way as it was prior. So those are some of the things that we're looking to build in as part of the project, the softer side of the project, the community side of the project.
We mentioned the community side. I'm not sure if we mentioned whether or not what sort of support has been given or will be given to residents in an attempt to get them back to where their lives were prior to the slippage.
That is something that for every project of this nature, there is a social component, and there is also a social specialist attached to the project. And so that they are assessing that aspect of it, and normally those costings are built in to the overall cost of the project. So that work is ongoing as well. So hence the reason why I mentioned earlier we had the community engagement. All that is part of the work of the social consultant, the person who deals with the social component of the project. They will deal with all these matters. That's a standard component of project of that nature. Is the same thing that is happening with the River Road, St. John's River project as well. That there is also a component for the social side of the project to ensure that persons are not negatively impacted by implementing a project. It wouldn't make sense for donors. They wouldn't want to hear things like that. Even for government, you don't want, after implementing a project, it's creating more harm than good. So that is a standard requirement.
Okay. We're keeping our eyes on the clock. 25 minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock. I know there's so much that we have to discuss, but we have to take a commercial break, a quick break. Senator, when we come back, I want us to touch on the project at River Road, and then there's also the Mount Craven project. I wanted to bring us up to speed on that. Before we take the break, though, I want to say good morning and thank you to those of you on social media. Peter Mitchell, Alistair Warwood Sr., Julian Alexander, and the team. Kipling Francis, good morning to you, sir. Those that's chiming in via our social media platform. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back, right here on To The Point.
This the season, Grenada, and all the action is happening on GBN. It's a mid-morning show like no other, with shopping deals, giveaways, karaoke fun, Christmas recipes, and a whole lot more. This the season for caring, sharing, and reaching out to those in need. This the season. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on GBN Television, Classic Radio, and GBN's Facebook and YouTube pages. Promotion runs from November 8th to December 31st. Stay tuned to this station for more info.
The season, don't miss the team. We'll be back at you at 12 o'clock, and we'll be headed on the south of the island. Welcome back to The Point for today, the 17th day of November. My guest this morning is Senator Norland Cox, Minister of Infrastructure, Development, Public Utilities, Transport, and Implementation. Senator, thank you. Welcome back. Let's continue with the conversation. We started by talking about that really expansive work that's expected to take place upon the Western Corridor, starting with the slippage in this Cherry Hill Molina area. Another place that's been, and some may say long overdue, is the St. John's River, that project in the River Road. Work started. It was thrown back a bit because we had some heavy downpour, which only highlighted and cemented the need for the project. What can you tell us about it?
Yes, Cadore. It's a project that we are very excited about. Even the parliamentary rep, just to give you a little joke. So when I told the parliamentary rep that, look, this is where we are at. We're about to get started. Everything is moving nicely. The contract is signed. He was like, Cox, you sure this is going to start? You sure this is going to start, man? I mean, I've heard so much about this project over and over, and it never happened. So he was very thrilled to have this project, and also the community. It's been a major relief for them to have this project done, and so we are very much excited to get it going. The contractor is doing a fantastic job. He has one of the things that one of our major policies in terms of infrastructure development is that we engage persons in the various communities to afford them an opportunity to develop the capacity in some areas where they'll learn something new on those projects, and for them to benefit from a livelihood standpoint as well. So that has happened, and we are very happy about that. Work is progressing nicely, and so that's the first two packages. That's packages 3 and 4 that Sunrise Construction is moving with. And then we have package 1 and 2, which Creative Design is just about to sign off on. And they are going to commence this month. That's what they indicated, hopefully, to just mobilize, start putting things in place, looking at where your site office is going to be, looking at who are going to be impacted, speaking with residents within the immediate impact area. And so all this mobilization work is taking place currently in the background for them to start work. So they are going to commence from around LA Parcel straight out to the mouth of the river. And so we are looking forward to that portion of the river being deal with in terms of minimizing, mitigating against this flood. It's a serious issue that we have in terms of flooding. It has been like that for a number of years, and it's really good for us to have this flood mitigation project right now to deal with that impact. So we are happy. And there are other components that has not been tendered out as yet, and that is the bridge by Steels Auto, the Humpback Bridge as well. Those two bridges will have to be removed and replaced. We had a long discussion with the consultants on the Humpback Bridge. I have a personal philosophy about about bridges, not breaking them. But if we could have built one on the side of it and leave that one just for pedestrian purposes, and then in discussion, in looking at from looking at the videos, the bridge is going to be an issue, and so it may have to be removed because what we've seen is that when we have heavy downpours, the bridge is acting as an impediment. It's basically stopping the flow of water because it's a bit too low. And so that is a challenge. We were fighting very hard to see if we could.
So we're looking at are you looking at removing it permanently or removing with the plan of elevation?
We're removing it and replacing. Removing and replacing. So a bridge will go back.
Right.
But the one that is there will be removed. So but a bridge will go back. And the one at Steels will also be replaced. So those are the other two important work to be done. That has not gone out to tenders yet. And then the entire roadway along the river will also be will be relayed and redone as well. So that's the final component to close off the St. John's River project.
Where in terms of the timetable is that project on right now? Because I know it started.
for packages 1 and 2, we are looking at the entire project. We are looking about 8 months to have it done. Bearing in mind that we started in the middle of the rainy season, we anticipated some delays, and so we had some challenges with the time, achieving that timeline. And then we also had a little delay with packages 1 and 2 with the contractor. We are under some serious negotiations in terms of getting the pricing. We have to find the best for government. But those 2 packages are the most difficult ones because you're having to walk in the mouth of the river, and you have the river, you have the seawater right there. So there are going to be some serious challenges for the contractor in that regard, and cost implications. So we are working to have those numbers come to somewhere as a middle ground, and that took some time in terms of negotiations. So there was some delay on that end, but we are very happy with the progress. That where we are, and despite the couple setback we have in time, we are still happy that we are going to get this project done successfully. That is the most important thing. And
we are quite comfortable, and I'm assuming that all the necessary feasibility work and environmental assessment has been done and completed. Yes. But how much consideration has been given to, because if you know the River Road area, literally the river runs alongside businesses, residences, and residents. How much of an impact, though, do you see the work on the river affecting livelihoods and the community on a whole?
Well, I don't see, in the terms of implementation of the project, what we are seeing is a positive response, in the sense that because you have a number of persons from the community being engaged, you have workmen taking place every day. So you have a small livelihood, persons who have shops, persons who have businesses. They are going to be impacted positively. The workmen would have to eat there. So a number of things is actually happening. There is probably more activity now that we have work going on now, and then more work is going to start when creative comes on stream. So I believe this project is bringing positive through implementation, and it's going to be positive after implementation, because we should not be impacted by the river as it was prior to the project. So it's all positive for me from what I'm seeing. And that is the mindset that we want to install in the minds of the community, that you extract the benefits that are presented through the implementation of the project and when it is completed.
We've seen, Senator, this is 2 major projects, one along the Western Corridor, one that connects the Northeast, again, back to the Western Corridor. Do you see any challenges in terms of the fact that these both projects have been going on literally simultaneously, in terms of traffic? Has a plan been put in place that would deal with the issue of rerouting? Because local is saying that we're making allowances for the Mount Cooma Road, but Mount Cooma, the River Road area, serves as a thoroughfare to get onto Mount Cooma, which is serving as a bypass for work when it is going on in the Molina area. Has a plan been given serious consideration as to what is the potential? Because I can see some serious delays, traffics, and given the tight timeline that you're running with.
And it's a genuine concern, and we have looked at everything. We are going to put every measure in place to minimize inconveniencing traffic as much as possible. What we are seeing is that there is significant infrastructure work, construction work taking place in the country, separate and apart from government. And so that in itself is adding towards those challenges as well. But we believe that is a good thing. There is positive stuff coming out from this. We have persons who have been significantly impacted negatively, businesses from COVID. So those activities are, I believe, are necessary in help creating the economic activity for persons to get gainful employment, for persons to get their livelihood back. So I think there are some positive inconveniences, and in this case, I believe that is one that we employ people to find a way to work with us to see how we can do our best to minimize those impacts, because everything is done in the interest and the benefit of the citizens. That is what we're striving to do.
The price we pay for progress, as they say. A concern has been raised because we did say that we are going to get onto the Mount Rodney, Mount Craven project. But before we get to that, concern has been raised. The issue of the Sutter's breakwater project. Some have argued that it has been a disaster, given to the fact that they've argued the absence. There was a debate whether or not an environmental assessment was done. There was back and forth. Government saying yes, no, and that created a controversy. Can you tell us, give us the name of the company and possibly their background and experience for the purpose and the satisfaction of the general public, so at least we can persons willing to investigate themselves, because very often there's questions regarding the qualification, and especially when you talk about bidding and all of these things. Sometimes some people argue corners are cut very, very, very often.
Thank you very much for raising that. Now, as regards to that whole Sutter's Bay area, I cannot speak to what would have transpired prior with the breakwater implementation. At that point in time, I don't think I'm not sure if I was in government when it was done. But however, I cannot speak to it. I think was the parliamentary secretary in Carriacou at the time. So I cannot speak to those details. But as regards to what is happening now, we have engaged earlier this year a company out of Jamaica, Coastal Engineering Company. I worked with them before. They have done some restoration work in Peter Martinique at the Plainfield area. If you could recall, when that area was being significantly eroded, so the Plainfield was restored. Mm-hmm. And so Smith Warner Engineering Company, Coastal Engineering Company out of Jamaica, is the one who have done the initial assessment, done all the coastal studies, the tides, everything. They came in and had that done earlier on this year, and they submitted a concept design in terms of what is it that we need to do, why certain things are happening, and how we need to rectify that to stop this coastal erosion that is taking place and now affecting the Mount Craven, Mount Rodney area. So that was completed. What is outstanding is the designs now for implementing those concepts, and that is what is being worked on currently. Now, because these things take time, the course is still active. So what we opted to do is just to, as a temporary measure, just put in some reinforcement on the coastline to protect the homes until the permanent fix is done. So that is what is being done now. So just to explain, that is where we are in terms of the Mount Craven, Mount Rodney coastal erosion. So work is ongoing in that regard.
It's interesting that you make mention of the slippage. A couple of years ago, we've had an issue with the storm surge and all of these different things. Climate change minister is an ever-present threat. It is evident. Only Senator Steele actually represented us in Glasgow as head of the team. As government sat down and taken an comprehensive plan that looks as part of the planning unit in the ministry as it relates to where approval is given for the we notice while we hear about climate change, yet we still seeing more and more development seem to be taking place on our direct waterfront. Is there any policy that government is looking at extensively long term? That does it really make sense with granting approval for these projects, understanding the challenges or the potential challenge to be faced due to climate change, rising sea levels, being one of those challenges?
I'm happy that you raised this. This is a very important issue that has been continued to be discussed in the public domain, and even from a regionally and global standpoint, in terms of how we move forward and how we build going forward. Unfortunately, our ministry, the fiscal plan is the one who handle those matters, which is basically under finance. So I'm not well positioned to speak on what the fiscal plan department is doing and how they are treating with those new changes and engagements. There well might be measures, but I'm not well positioned to respond to say what is it that they're doing to address those things, because fiscal plan is not under the Ministry of Infrastructure, it's under the Ministry of Finance. So I understand, and those are genuine concerns.
But it should be, as a minister, I would assume that it gives you sleepless nights, knowing that basically you might be finishing one project now, and you have to go back to the CDB tomorrow morning. I'm assuming, looking at your long-term plans, there must be something in the pipeline that seeks to address that.
I can speak to some other things that climate resilience have been working on, and that I know some of those measures would have been raised at the cabinet level, and Senator Steele had been leading the whole issue of trying to make St. George's a climate smart city, with a number of assessment and research work have been going on with New York University. So yes, discussions are taking place, but as regards to specific infrastructure work that might be happening, approvals for them in that regard, those are basically leveled towards the fiscal planning department. And so it would be unfair for me to speak on it in extent if I do not have all the necessary. Unfair to myself, to the department, and of course the persons listening. I think it's important that we give accurate information in that regard. So that's what I would mean in that regard.
Remind me though, the company in Jamaica, was it Smith Warner, you said?
Smith Warner, yes.
Smith Warner International. Okay.
Yes.
Smith Warner International. Just for the purpose of our listening audience, for the purpose of following up. Right. Let's segue back into now the Mount Rodney, Mount Coleman project. What's the latest on that?
Well, as I indicated, all that is form part of what Smith Warner is working on. So what we have done is just put some temporary protective measures by way of some boulders, just to keep out when you have the high tides, just to keep the water and the encroachment, just to reduce the impact. That is all that is happening. Just a small temporary measure, and that will be replaced once the temporary impact is done. Because you have permanent homes there, and as government, you just can't just sit back and just not do anything. But we have to just on what we are doing would not in any way worsen the situation. And so we are ensuring that we have experienced persons who would look at it so we have one of our local contractors, Gilbert Engineering, who is giving some advice on how we can just do that as a temporary measure until the permanent fix is done. So that is where we are.
Physical planning being under the Ministry of Finance, are we seeing that maybe there need to be some shifted reallocations in terms of ministries response? Because I would think, as the minister, physical planning should be under your direct responsibility, Senator.
Yeah, well,
it's almost like you're working in the dark.
I thought we were friends. You're asking to have responsibilities for me, yeah?
Well, it probably goes with the territory. But it almost you're working in the dark, Senator.
I do not have all the justifications for such, but I think there are some valid justifications why they are twinned with the Ministry of Finance. I think through the whole issue of the procurement board and department that is also attached with finance. So there's some intricacies that are there that might be the reason for it being. I'm not saying that it may not fit well on the infrastructure, but there might be a different reason why it was done that way. So it's something that we can look at. Yeah,
it seems almost like you've been handed the TV, but they hold it on like somebody's holding on to the remote. But let's move along. Sorry, we have limited time, and it's so the Transport Commission. It's a conversation that we've been hearing about modernizing our transportation sector. What can you tell us? I know there was a major pronouncement that was made yesterday.
Yes, well, as I indicated, the commission has appointed a designated CEO, who in Assistant Commissioner Jessamine Prince, who is no stranger to the transportation sector, is no stranger to most grain agents. He's one of our long-standing persons who have been working everywhere. I work with him in Spice Pass, and he works with us at Cricket. So he has, we believe, has a vast knowledge of the workings of the sector and the relationship with our wide cross-section of stakeholders to start that important process of reforming the transport sector. Also added to that, we have a number of important projects that are coming on stream. So he will be key in the administrating these projects and seeing them through. We have the Agenda project. We have all the transport study to take place as well. We have the e-mobility project as well. So we have 3 major projects for transport coming forward. And that is, it's important that we have the office to administrate that. So there are auxiliary staff that are going to also be engaged, just what we need as essential staff in the first instance, that are going to be engaged to ensure that the office of the Transport Commission gets up and running. That is something, it's a critical milestone for us. We have passed the legislation, I believe sometime last year, and now we have the office that is being operationalized. I think that is a step in the right direction. We are progressing nicely. We are happy with that. Our transport sector is quite unique. I think the best way to put it, and I've always put it, is that we have a public transport system that is invested in the private sector. So it's a special twinning where you have national importance, but at the same time, as government, you can tell a driver what to do with his own personal business, but at the same time, they serve a national interest and a national importance. So understand the difficulty and challenge that we from transport have, and as the minister, to treat with issues, to deal with things. But I must say, for the greater part, that the bus operators, they have been cooperating, they have been working with us. Albeit there are some things that we are not going to agree on, not everything that we're going to agree on, but most things that we have a common interest on, and we have been working and engaging them, and we're happy to work with them to help improve the sector for them to benefit as well. And we have always given them clear indications in terms of our desire to help improve their service for their benefit, and that is all that we're trying to do.
A dichotomy, no doubt. Some have argued, though, that the forming of this Transport Commission serves as the beginning of the end for these public bus owners. And as you rightly said, is in fact not just bus owners, but they're businessmen. Given the fact that you now have Officer Prince taking up the responsibility to head that commission, and things seem to be going full steam ahead. Is there a framework that has been set up in any way, form, or fashion that answers the question of when this commission is set up, what happens really and truly to these private entities, businesses as it is, bus owners that have been serving the community for all these years?
Well, I can tell you clearly, there is no strong desire for government to do with our private bus operators. That is not That is not our intention in any way at all. Our intention, as I indicated, is to work with them to help improve that service, so that our citizens or our commuters can say, look, we are satisfied with the service. And I said to them at one of our meetings, I said, look, what you don't want as a bus operator is that somebody to get a ride on your bus from one place to the next, and then after coming off the bus saying, look, you know what it is? I think I need to get my own transport. So that is not what you want. You don't want anybody, after experiencing a service from a particular bus operator, to jump off the bus and say, look, I need my own car. So that is one passenger that you're going to lose. So it's within that context that we have having those discussions with them to find ways to see how we can improve. And they came forward with some good suggestions as well, even in terms of having dedicated time frame in terms of timing with the bus. Like for example, in New York, where every half an hour a bus will come at a particular stop. So we have been having those discussions to see how we can use the technology to improve the service in a more definitive way, that persons can probably go on the phone and know how soon a bus is coming, how far a bus is away. So those are some of the things that we have been discussing. On government involvement, and what we are seeing is that there is an opportunity for government to intervene when it comes to our senior citizens and persons with special needs.
Right.
That is the area that we are seeing an opportunity for us to be engaged. The question is whether government do it directly through the commission, or government facilitate by giving, maybe having a contract, giving out contracts, or maybe having a PPP. So those are the discussions that are going to be fleshed out from the studies. What will be best fit? And when we have that feedback from the public, what are the needs and how they see that we can implement such a service for our senior citizens in particular. We have had calls also, the challenges with students and with children on the buses, and asking for that. But I believe that is a kind of long way off. But I more see us having a quicker response to dealing with our senior citizens and special needs, persons who may be wheelchair and those persons who need assistance. I see there's a great opportunity for government to provide some immediate response in that regard. So that is our initial snapshot of it from where I sit, and that is something I, as a minister, would love for us to have achieved. I believe that our senior citizens who would serve this country in different capacities, we definitely ought to provide a better service for them in the twilight years. I think the time is now for us to do that, and it's just for us to find a mechanism to do that. But so that will be something personally, as a minister, will be driving going forward as an initiative of the commission.
Well, I can safely tell you, I think you and I, the time is coming that we both will benefit from that. So maybe you could see. So I am thanking you in advance, Senator. We're almost out of time, literally out of time. But there's three issues I just want to touch on briefly. There was a lighting of the playing field in Carriacou. Some say long overdue, and while that is done, we've been hearing even on the mainland there's conversations, stadium and so on. I know there's international cricket and everything in the pipeline as part of opening up. And then, if possible, is there a plan the government has for looking at the main thoroughfares around the island? The Grandins Road, for example, who, in my estimation, is long overdue for a major restorative work. What can you tell me?
Thank you very much for that. Yes, I'll start with the road first. The roads, they are not in the condition that is desirable for us. That is not what we want to see, and we know those who own vehicles understand. You put it so mildly. You put it so mildly. Most certainly. However, I must commend our repair team or maintenance crews who have been working to keep those potholes covered as quickly as possible. And I want the commuters to continue to empathize with us in this regard. We are going to have major overlay of our road networks. We have had some challenges on the production asphalt side, and we have worked. I believe that we are almost there to have that sorted out so that next year, please the Lord, we can start early in doing some significant asphalt work or road overlay. I am most disappointed personally that we are unable to have that done this year. Even after several attempts, we tried, but we just couldn't get it. We just couldn't get it done. Circumstances beyond our control, and so what we are going to have it done. The lighting of the playing fields. Yes, Carriacou, Hillsborough playing field. We must commend the parliamentary rep. She continued to work to serve Carriacouans, and she have done so and responded to the call of especially our sporting enthusiasts who have been waiting long to have Hillsborough playing field light. And we just want to say, as a Carriacouan, and not speaking in the capacity as a minister, but also as a resident, just to say thank you to the minister for lighting Hillsborough in that regard. In terms of other playing field lighting, there are other fields that are going to be lit going forward, and we'll hear more of that. I can quickly see that we have sign off on Lassaget's playing field. I think infrastructure works in terms of the infrastructure for the poles will start hopefully on Monday, I believe, of this week coming. So more information will come on that. So Lassaget is going to be lit. The National Stadium, we were right there to have the stadium kick off. However, in deliberation as government, you go into a pandemic, you have persons who are out of a job. Cricket, you can't congregate for cricket. And so the priority for government somewhat shifted during this period because we believe that going to light a stadium when nobody was actually could go in to look at cricket, we believe that wasn't a priority as government. And so it was set aside until we recover. And so the discussion is back again on the table as we see cricket coming next year. So yes, we have to kickstart again on the stadium. Unfortunately, we were right there, ready to go. But as government, we just thought that was not an appropriate action at that time when you have a number of persons. So resources definitely were redirected for stimulus and all sorts of stuff to increase budget in health to respond to the pandemic. And I think that was a noble approach from government, and we stand by our action to put a hold on the lighting of the stadium in that regard. So
in short, so we need to go seek funding for that stadium lighting project.
Not necessarily. We have had support from our partner, and it was going to be a loan initiative. That is how the lighting was going to be done, loan and grant.
Right.
So that is so discussions are ongoing. Just to indicate, we have a target. We're looking to see if we can probably go back out to tender because of the long duration. We want to go back out, and we're basically looking at December. So we'll have more information on that for the lighting of the stadium. But that is a critical milestone for us. We need to get this done. And I would love to be the one spearheading that, to get that done with support from my Minister for Sports, who is also excited about this. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Senator Cox. There's so much we can take this further, but all things being equal, we have to end the conversation here. I want to say thank you. Thank you, Senator Cox, the Minister for Infrastructure Development, Public Utilities, Transport, and Implementation. All the best. All the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And
for our viewers,
a bit more.
You need to.
Yeah. I will fix that.
Okay. For all our listeners and viewers, indeed, it was a pleasure being here with you. This is Journey End for this first phase of my stint with you. So it was a pleasure being here with you. JC loves you. Coming up next on the network. Yes, 'tis the season. I'll be heading to the south of the island. We'll be somewhere inside of Gittins Healthcare and the wonderful folks from and YMS House will be joining us. Until then, so long, everybody. All our viewers, those of you that's on social media network, Julian Alexander, Ernesto, Glenroy St. Louis, and the team Peter Mitchell. Until we do this again, another time and place, God bless you. And those of you logging in from here at home and across other parts of the diaspora, keep doing what you do, supporting Grenada and keeping the flag flying high. Until then, take care, everybody.